Hi, everyone. I'm RaeAnn Anderson. I'm the principal investigator, or HBIC, of the UND Sexual Violence Prevention Lab. The point of this video today is to give you guys a little bit of a sense of what we do and hopefully inspire you to become scientists. I don't know how many videos you're going to see about social science, but I will do my best to describe what we do. I came into science in kind of a roundabout way. I did not think that I was going to be a scientist when I was in high school. I definitely didn't even know that social science existed. I didn't understand what social science research did, much less psychology research specifically. But I knew I was always interested in when awful things happen to people, why is it that some people can move on easily after the fact and some people can't? In my community, that was mostly veterans. But as I went to college and graduate school, I found out that actually women and children and disadvantaged people really bear the brunt of trauma in our society. And that made me really interested in learning more and directing my efforts towards the folks who need it the most. So that's kind of briefly how I ended up doing this, getting to be a scientist, a professional scientist all day, which is totally freaking rad, guys. Like, I love being a scientist. It's amazing, and I'd love to share that with you all if it's a good fit for you all and if you're interested. So let me say a little bit about the science that we do. One of my students referred to our lab as kind of the science behind Me Too. And probably you all are familiar with that. And probably a lot of you were very familiar with that even before Me Too became a national conversation, because Indigenous communities really, again, bear the brunt of trauma and of inequality. And that applies to sexual violence as well. But if you've ever wondered, like me, why do some people recover more easily than others? Or you've wondered, how can human beings do these kinds of things to each other? Or how do we prevent this? How do we stop this? Those are the questions that made me interested in sexual violence and in psychology. So join us. We'd love to have you. Let me show you guys some slides and give you some examples of our lab's research. All right, so let me give you a couple of examples of some of the work we do and what inspired this. So this is a slide that I put together a couple years ago before Me Too really kicked off. So it has different resonance now, and it could be a lot more crowded. But when I first started doing my research, I was interested in these folks. I was interested in how can we help people recover. But as time went on, I was like, this slide should look different. I should have a slide of people who have been held responsible for harming these folks. I should have a slide of people who've learned to change their behavior. And that's a bit more where we're at now in terms of our lab is unique in that we do research on victimization and on perpetration. We try to be really interdisciplinary and include clinical perspectives, public health, criminology, forensic science, and really solution focus. We try to really focus on what is the kind of basic information we need to know to be able to prevent sexual violence. So the Rape Acknowledgement Longitudinal Study is an example of this really solution-focused research. So rape acknowledgement is this idea that not everyone, and in fact, most people who experience rape don't call it that. So then if that person shows up for therapy, what is the therapist supposed to do? Should the therapist confront them about how they're not labeling their experience appropriately, air quotes? No, that would be pretty rude and harmful, even act, perhaps. But at the same time, how do you help someone recover from a serious trauma that they don't think of as a trauma? So that's kind of the big idea with this study is to recruit a bunch of young people, young women, I should say. We're focusing just on women in this study. In the future, we'll do a kind of men and more gender expansive version who have experienced rape somewhat recently. And we want to chat with them every 6 months to learn about just how does this change over time? Do the way people think about rape and what they're willing to call it change over time? And how's that related to going to therapy, talking to other people about it? And then how does that affect their mental health? And next, we have an example of Danielle and Courtney, some of the folks who've been working on this study, giving a demonstration of some of the things that we have been doing for that study. So I'll pass it off to them.
Okay, so thank you for participating in our study today. We're interested in how women recover from unwanted sex. So for today, I'd like to learn more about the episode of unwanted sex you've experienced in the last 7 years that means the most to you or had the biggest impact. So can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. So I was in high school and I went to prom with some of my friends. After the dance, we went to this big party that was at somebody's house. And one of the guys from my class, he was there and he was being super nice to me. So I just really like wanted to get close to him. And I hadn't ever drunk before or drank before. And so I ended up getting really, really drunk. And he offered to help me to the bathroom because I felt like I was going to throw up. But while we were in there, he started doing things to me and I couldn't stop him.
Okay. So I'm really sorry that that happened to you. It sounds like you trusted him and then he took advantage of that. So people label their experiences in different ways. So I'd like you to think about that experience that you just described. And I'm going to show you some labels, and I'd like you to choose from these labels which one makes the most sense with your experience.
Like a rape or a sexual assault because I never wanted it to happen and I really tried to make him stop.
Okay. And then have you ever labeled it differently in the past, do you think?
Yeah, when it first happened, I didn't really know any better and I just thought this was something that happened to everybody and I just thought it was normal. But now that I've talked to like other people, I realize that that's not true.
Okay. So it sounds like you've gone through a lot, but you've come a really long way since then. So that's really good. So now I'd like to ask you specifically about how this experience has impacted your mental health. So we're going to transition to some questions like that. So since this happened, have you been bothered by memories of the event that pop into your head even when you don't want them to?
Yeah.
And do you think that that's also happened for like the past month?
Probably so, yeah.
Okay. Do you have bad dreams related to this event?
Yeah, sometimes I have dreams that I'm just back at the party and he's just like watching over my shoulder the whole time.
Okay. Since this happened and in the past month, do you avoid certain activities or situations that remind you of what happened, or do you just try to avoid thinking about it in general?
Definitely.
So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I still live in the same town that it happened in, so I really avoid driving past the house that we were at that night, and I try to avoid places that I know that he like goes to a lot.
Okay. All right. So since this happened, do you feel like you always have to be like on your guard or like you're always looking for danger?
Yeah, I mean, like I can't really go places or really anywhere without feeling like I have to look over my shoulder for him or like one of his friends.
Okay. And kind of similar to that, do you feel like you're jumpy or you're startled more easily since this happened?
Yeah, probably so.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like for you?
Well, I mean, whenever I'm in like a crowded space where there's a lot of people around, every noise I hear really makes me super anxious, and I like get sweaty and like really nervous about like being around people, I guess.
Okay. So thinking about like this past month in general, do you think that this problem, just like the event and how you've responded to it, has gotten in the way of your ability to function at school, at work, in your social life, your family, or just in your like general ability to do things that were important to you?
Maybe a little bit. Like, I think my friendships have definitely suffered. I don't like to go out to parties anymore or do a lot of the social things that I used to do. It just
Hmm.
makes me nervous to be in a setting like that.
Okay.
But I definitely stay caught up at work and school and all that.
Okay. And not being with your friends as much, does that bother you a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I wish like I could hang out with them and not be worried that something else would happen.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for answering these questions. And that is all for today.
Hello, my name is Ashley. I'm Hungpapa Lakota from Standing Rock. I'm a new research assistant for the Sexual Violence Prevention Laboratory. I joined for a couple of reasons, for many actually, but one, I'm a huge advocate for learning more information about issues in our community to help with my own independent research, which is on recidivism, the return to prison or jail for Native Americans in North Dakota. And then two, I, as an Indigenous scholar, have a different voice and a different point of view and would like to bring Indigenous communities to the front end or like the front table. So it's not marked as an other, and we're giving more voice and more opportunity to seek out issues in our community. It's very exciting to start with this laboratory and in social science because will be able to interview people pretty soon, and the opportunity to interview people, you get to learn their experiences and what they've been through, and then what they've been through and how you analyze all your surveys and your interviews and all the data. You're able to prevent that from happening, hopefully by preventing programs or ways to address and advocate for those issues to prevent it from happening. So social science is very cool. I get to work with many different majors. I personally am criminal justice and American Indian studies, and the other people in the research group are of various different psychology and forensic science. And it's really neat to work with other scholars in social science because you get so many different perspectives. So social science is very intriguing, and you learn a lot and you read a lot of research articles, and you get to address those problems with what you learn and hope for a better tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Frances. I'm a forensic psychology student here at the University of North Dakota, and I'm one of the graduate researchers in the Anderson Sexual Violence Prevention Lab. To me, walking into the lab, I had no idea how quantitative psychology could be, and what a science it could be. So that was really exciting for me to get to work in a lab, although it may not be like biology or chemistry, to still be able to produce really meaningful data, and conduct really meaningful studies, and scientific research that has a real impact on our world, especially in the wake of Me Too and all of this new information that we have on what sexual violence is and what it means. So that's been a really amazing experience, and I hope that all of you will visit us, and I can't wait to see you all.
I just really wanted to talk about what Lab has done for me over the past year and a half that I've been lucky enough to participate. Lab has taught me how to work with a large group of people collaboratively, how to, stop and listen to what everyone has to say and integrate feedback to make, my own ideas better. Primarily during the past year and a half, I've been working on a project that is focused around the measurement of sexual violence perpetration and victimization. And it's really underscored to me how important, like, measurement is and how important test development is, because yes, we want to do that hard work of preventing sexual violence and making these intervention programs. But in order to even do that, we have to start at knowing who is at risk for being victimized and who's at risk for being a perpetrator, and that all boils down to measurement. Getting to work with Dr. Anderson over the past year, we've written 2 manuscripts together, and just that process has really taught me how to write, how to communicate my ideas that I'm passionate about to a broader audience. And yeah, just one of the highlights of my time here at UND.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenzie, and I'm an undergraduate research assistant for Dr. Anderson's lab. And one thing I've learned through my lab experience has definitely been how to apply the skills and knowledge that I've learned through my classes to practical real-life things that actually matter. Since I'm just an undergraduate, there aren't many ways to do this, so Dr. Anderson's lab has been a great opportunity for me. Another thing I've learned is definitely how to be a better scientist. Science can be hard, especially when you're dealing with a topic such as sexual violence prevention. So I've learned that the best way to handle it is definitely to be the best scientist I can be and apply everything I've learned so that what I do is following best practices and methods and is done ethically. And another thing I've learned that I think is really general that everyone can benefit from is definitely how to work as a team with other people in order to accomplish goals, because I think that's definitely one of the biggest things this lab does. So yeah.
The Anderson Sexual Violence Prevention Lab has taught me that science is fun. In lab, I've worked on several really exciting and timely projects in sexual violence research from a psychological perspective. They're quite practical as far as informing best practices for interventions like training and therapy that can be instituted on university campuses and in communities to help reduce sexual violence. My thesis research is on finding out bisexual women's preferences for interventions that can help reduce sexual violence risk, like self-defense or bystander training. I aim to engage an ethnically and racially diverse sample. I hope to implement one intervention for bisexual women based on my thesis results for these preferences. I'll do that for my dissertation. I've also got 2 papers under submission to leading journals based on projects for lab. I look forward to being on a panel discussion at the big Association for Behavioral and Cognitive Therapies conference in November based on a project and paper on Title IX policies that I co-wrote for lab. All in all, it's an exciting and rewarding place to be.
Hello, my name is Sydney Tim, and I am an undergraduate research assistant in Dr. Anderson's Sexual Violence Prevention Lab. I would like to share with you some things that I have learned since being part of her lab. The first thing being sexual violence is not just experienced by women, it's experienced by people of all genders and all sexual orientations. It can happen to anyone. The next thing that I have learned since being part of our lab is science is a team sport. No projects are done alone in our lab. We always create and form groups to take on projects, and everyone is always there for you to help and support you with whatever you need in our lab. The third thing that I would like to share with you that I've learned since being part of her lab is how to support people who have experienced and survived sexual violence. Before being in our lab, I did not know the differing resources and the differing options people have who have experienced sexual violence. And now through being part of our lab, I know how to support those individuals and how to get them the help they need.
Hi, I'm Danielle. This is my first year in grad school in the Sexual Violence Prevention Lab, and I have learned so much in my first year already. I think the biggest thing is just learning about the different experiences of other people and populations that I haven't normally worked with in the past. So I've learned a lot about the perspectives of Indigenous women, of people of color, people in the LGBTQ community, and learning a lot about how our science and our research can be applied to help those people who might not get the same help at a systemic level as others. So right now I'm learning how to lead my own project and write my own thesis, and I'm looking at how religion and spirituality might help or hinder someone recovering from an experience of rape. So religion and spirituality are really important to a lot of people, particularly women who are in rural areas. And those folks might not get as much help as people in urban areas. So I'm learning how to take my research, take my science, and apply it to real world issues. So we're hoping to be able to inform religious leaders and spiritual leaders how to better help women in rural areas so that those folks can get the help they need, especially recovering from experience of rape and other sexual violence. So it's been a really awesome process. I'm learning so much about how just to take science, as complicated and difficult as it is sometimes, and applying it to real world situations. So even though it's really difficult and research is just crazy and complicated, in the end, our goal is really simple, and we just want to help people. And that's what's really cool about this lab.
So I'm a little emotional, a little embarrassed after having watched all those really sweet videos. But I wanted to kind of wrap up the video by talking a little bit about what makes our lab unique. I hope this came across in some of the videos that you all watched, but we're definitely a team-based collaborative lab. And one of the things that I benefit so much from in working with students and working with folks from different backgrounds, and in fact, 40% of our lab is folks from some type of underrepresented minority, is the ideas and the impact that the students bring to research. For example, Danielle and Sarah talked about their research projects a little bit. These are really cool projects I never would have thought on my own, but I'm loving learning about it with them. And any study we do, including the ACT long study that we talked about a little bit in the video, the students contribute to that. They give me ideas for how to make it better, as well as helping me pull it off. So our lab is really unique. Not only are we the only lab in this entire region of the United States and in the state of North Dakota that is exclusively devoted to studying sexual violence and trying to prevent sexual violence, we're also one of the few labs, I think, that operates in such a collaborative way. And I hope that some of you all choose to join us. I made a slide of some of the things that you all might get to do or might want to do. Number one is learn how to analyze data. We have buckets of data in our lab. For example, how many college men report experiencing rape? That's a question that we have the data to be able to answer, and you all could learn how to answer that. We can also teach you how to work with trauma survivors clinically, how to conduct psychological assessments for PTSD, how to talk to people about rape in a way that is helpful. You could learn how to analyze the existing scientific literature to answer questions or develop a new research question. There's lots of already really cool, great data out there just waiting to be mined or waiting to be put together with other research to answer innovative questions. So those are some of the examples of the things that we do. I hope you all enjoyed this little video. And to wrap up, I just want to shout out and say thanks to the lab members who helped me make this video. I hope you all learned a little bit about sexual violence, and I hope you're excited to science, even if it's not that.